Today's subject is a woman who captivated a generation, turned controversy into power, and survived everything from a brain hemorrhage to a brutal custody battle, all while redefining what it means to be both a star and a mother. Sharon Stone wasn't just a leading lady, she was a symbol of danger, desire, and defiance, a femme fatale with a steel heart and a soft center few ever saw. This is the story of Sharon Stone and what happened to the three boys who became her purpose when fame could no longer fill the silence. Roan Stone, born into battle. Roan Joseph Bronstein was born on May 22, 2000, and adopted shortly afterward by Sharon Stone and her then-husband, newspaper executive Phil Bronstein. At the time, Sharon was 42, at the height of her fame, yet quietly carrying the weight of multiple miscarriages and the painful truth that she could no longer bear children. For her, adopting Roan wasn't a career add-on, it was salvation. In his early years, Roan lived in a world of affluence and attention, moving between Sharon's Los Angeles home and Bronstein's base in San Francisco. But by 2003, the cracks in the family had widened. Sharon and Phil separated, and in 2004, when Roan was just 4 years old, a California judge awarded full custody to Bronstein, a controversial decision that left Sharon in tears. The court cited her travel-heavy schedule and public profile as destabilizing, despite her insistence that she could provide a loving home. From that point forward, Roan's upbringing was largely under his father's care, though Sharon remained present, regularly visiting and maintaining her maternal role as much as the law would allow. By age 7, Roan had already lived through more upheaval than most kids ever would. He witnessed his mother's near-death stroke in 2001, a cerebral hemorrhage that left her unable to speak, write, or walk for months. Sharon later said that Roan was one of her deepest motivations to recover. Through his childhood and early teens, Roan stayed mostly out of the spotlight, shielded by both parents. But moments would surface. A school event here, a red carpet appearance there. At 12, he began spending more summers with Sharon, who by then had adopted 2 more sons, Laird in 2005 and Quinn in 2006. Though separated from them by geography, Roan remained part of this unconventional, stitched-together family. In 2012, at age 12, Roan appeared briefly in the tabloids when Sharon took him on a humanitarian trip to Nepal, a clear signal she was raising him to see the world beyond Hollywood. In 2018, Roan turned 18, legally becoming an adult and finally gaining more autonomy over his relationship with his mother. Their public bond intensified. In 2019, at age 19, he walked the Cannes Film Festival carpet with Sharon, marking his debut as an adult beside her, poised, quiet, and commanding attention not for scandal, but for stature. From 2020 onward, Roan began exploring acting, studying the craft without rushing onto the screen. Sharon, now in her 60s, hinted at his path in 2023 with an Instagram post. "Welcome to the family biz, kid. It wasn't a launch. It was a soft handoff." The legacy passed not through pressure, but invitation. By 2024, Roan had begun auditioning, building his own trajectory. He remained largely off social media, avoiding the influencer circuit and carving a path more similar to his mother's early days than today's viral fame routes. As of 2025, Roan is 25 years old, measured, thoughtful, and entering the industry on his own terms. While other celebrity children race to the spotlight, he studied it from a distance. He carries his mother's resilience and his father's discretion, standing now at the edge of a legacy he didn't inherit. He watched it break and rebuild itself. That's the version he chose to follow, not the fame, the fight. Laird Von Stone, healing through discipline. Laird Von Stone entered Sharon Stone's life in 2005, 5 years after she had adopted Roan. At that time, Sharon was already a single mother, recently divorced, and had just come through years of public heartbreak, not only over custody, but over the 9 miscarriages that left her unable to have biological children. Adopting Laird was not a PR move or symbolic gesture. It was a decision made by a woman who had been publicly stripped of her motherhood and was determined to reclaim it. Laird was just a baby when he arrived in Sharon's arms, And unlike Roan, whose early years were split between two homes and legal wrangling, Laird was raised entirely under Sharon's roof. From the beginning, the press caught glimpses of him not in scandal, but in stillness. Sharon walking with him in Beverly Hills, carrying him at LAX, or later sitting beside him in the front row at charity galas. She once said she wanted her sons to grow up seeing kindness before power. Laird was raised not in the Hollywood hills of red carpets and premieres, but in a carefully controlled world that prioritized education, stability, and civic awareness. In 2006, just a year after Laird's adoption, Sharon adopted Quinn, and the three brothers, though different in age and personality, became the quiet core of Sharon's later life. As Laird grew into childhood, his name would occasionally surface in interviews, but never in headlines. Sharon kept her household private. She walked away from big projects, rejected industry pressure, and chose to be home for school pickups and bedtime stories. By age 10, Laird was attending a rigorous prep school in Los Angeles, with Sharon often sharing how proud she was of his intellect and drive. She spoke less about fame, more about character. In 2017, at age 12, Laird appeared at the GQ Men of the Year Awards with Sharon. Tall, composed, wearing a dark blazer and a slightly shy grin. It was a rare moment in the spotlight, and it hinted that while he didn't crave fame, he understood how to carry it. As a teenager, Laird kept a notably low profile. No public Instagram, no party photos, no tabloid stumbles. Sharon occasionally posted birthday tributes, praising his heart, discipline, and quiet strength. In 2022, at age 17, Laird made headlines, not for acting, but for academics. Sharon proudly announced that he had been accepted into a pre-med program preparing to study medicine. It was a striking departure from his mother's world. While Roan was dipping into entertainment, Laird was choosing science, structure, and service. By 2024, he was preparing to leave for college, and Sharon posted a photo of them in Rome, sharing a quiet dinner before his departure. "I'm so proud of the man you're becoming," she wrote. "Stay kind. Stay focused." Now 19, Laird Von Stone stands as the most private of the Stone boys. Disciplined, thoughtful, and uninterested in celebrity. His mother's legacy shaped his worldview, not his ambition. He saw what it meant to lose everything and still stand up. And instead of trying to repeat her path, he's writing his own, one that doesn't require the spotlight to leave an impact. In a family built on survival and reinvention, Laird chose a third path, stillness with purpose. Quinn Stone, the quiet creator. Quinn Stone, the youngest of Sharon Stone's three sons, entered her life in 2006, just a year after she adopted Laird. By then, Sharon was already a single mother of two, nearing 50, and rebuilding her life after the loss of custody of Roan and years of physical recovery from a devastating stroke. But adopting Quinn wasn't an act of filling space. It was a decision grounded in hope. She once said she wanted to raise children who knew how to love in a world that often doesn't. Quinn was adopted as a newborn, joining the family just as Laird was learning to walk, and together the two became nearly inseparable. Brothers not by blood, but by bond, raised under the same roof, nurtured by the same mother, and protected fiercely from the chaos of public life. Sharon deliberately kept their world insulated. No paparazzi shots outside clubs, no viral meltdowns. Just glimpses of Quinn walking beside her to Sunday brunch or holding her hand at children's events in LA. By 2012, when Quinn was 6, Sharon was transitioning into a new phase of her career, taking fewer roles, investing in global charity work, and focusing heavily on parenting. Quinn was often seen accompanying her to social justice fundraisers, art exhibits, and later global relief missions. While most celebrity children grow up with security gates and private tutors, Quinn grew up with compassion drills. Sharon taking time to explain injustice, inequality, and empathy through action. At home, he was the creative one. Sharon frequently mentioned in interviews how Quinn had an instinct for music and sketching, often disappearing into his own little world with a pencil or a guitar. In 2018, when Quinn was 12, he made a rare appearance at a film festival with Sharon and his brothers. He was quiet but observant, dressed simply, avoiding attention, yet taking it all in. By the time he reached high school, he began experimenting with photography and film editing, and while there were whispers that he might try acting like his mother, Sharon made it clear in interviews that she wouldn't pressure him into the business. "He's finding his own rhythm," she said, "and I trust him to follow it." Throughout his teens, Quinn stayed completely out of social media, a rare feat for a celebrity child in the digital age. No TikTok presence, no online identity to manage. He was and remains the least visible of the Stone boys. But insiders close to the family often note that Quinn is the most introspective, the one who asks the hardest questions, the one who pushes the family toward honesty and growth. As of 2025, Quinn is around 18 or 19, reportedly wrapping up high school and considering a gap year before committing to college. Unlike Laird's medical path or Roan's acting interest, Quinn's direction remains open, but his foundation is solid. He grew up in a house where fame was never the goal, where surviving loss, making art, and telling the truth were the pillars of manhood. He saw his mother rebuild herself physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and he watched her do it not with bitterness, but with creativity. Now, standing at the edge of adulthood, Quinn Stone isn't chasing a spotlight or escaping a shadow. He's simply choosing when and how to speak. In a family shaped by reinvention, he may be the one writing the next chapter, not as a reflection of the past, but as its quiet editor. 3 sons, Roan, Laird, and Quinn Stone, grew up in the quiet orbit of a woman the world once couldn't look away from, and they chose to look inward. Roan stepped into the family business with patience, not entitlement. Laird pursued healing, not headlines. And Quinn created in silence, not for applause, but for truth. Their mother's fame gave them a shadow. They became the men she never had the chance to raise before. Built not by blood, but by choice. If you found this breakdown powerful and want more deep dives into the hidden lives of Hollywood's forgotten children, subscribe to After the Fame. Your support brings these invisible stories to light. Thanks for listening.